Okay, so you're thinking about using Fiverr to find a website developer.
Sounds like a plan.
You've sent over this podcast episode you like on navigating Fiverr.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and see what insights we can pull out, especially for someone like you who's already familiar with the platform.
Absolutely. Choosing a developer, it's a big decision.
Yeah, it is.
It's like finding the architect for your online presence.
Okay.
They might not be laying bricks, but the right developer lays the groundwork for everything that comes after.
Totally. And this podcast really emphasized that, especially when it comes to those Fiverr reviews, they talked about going beyond just looking at the star ratings.
Right, because we've all seen those generic 5-star reviews that don't really tell you anything.
Yeah.
It's about digging deeper.
Okay.
Look for reviews that mention specific challenges the developer overcame or how they handled unexpected requests.
Right.
That speaks volumes about their problem-solving skills.
Oh, that's good. I'm writing that down. It reminds me of a review I saw where someone was like, they not only built my e-commerce site, but they also helped me troubleshoot an issue with my payment gateway, even though it was outside the initial project scope.
Perfect example.
Wow.
That shows they're willing to go the extra mile, which can be invaluable down the line.
The podcast host had a great analogy for this, too.
Okay.
About how just skimming star ratings is like judging a book by its cover.
Right.
But instead of judging a book on Fiverr, you should judge, but judge by the portfolio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of portfolios, the next tip was all about actually looking at the websites a developer has built.
Okay.
Don't just read descriptions. Click through. Test things out. Get a feel for their style and expertise.
It's like, do you want to hire a chef based solely on their resume, or do you want to taste their food first?
Precisely. A portfolio is a developer's digital tasting menu.
I like that.
Does it look appetizing?
Yeah.
Does it function smoothly?
Uh-huh.
If you were a visitor, would you want to stay and explore?
So true. It's about more than just looking pretty, too. Right? They talked about how a slow website can actually hurt you, even if it looks amazing.
Absolutely. Functionality is critical.
Okay.
A slow or clunky website will drive visitors away faster than you can say page load time.
Yeah.
You also want to consider mobile responsiveness, how the site looks and works on phones and tablets.
So that's a good point.
Yeah.
And this is where that technical expertise comes in handy, because I feel like a lot of people don't even think about those things until it's too late.
It's easy to get caught up in the aesthetics, but remember, a website is a tool.
Yeah.
It needs to function seamlessly to be effective.
Which brings us to the next point that really resonated: brand alignment.
Yes.
Just because you like a developer's style doesn't mean it fits your brand.
Exactly. Imagine if Patagonia's website was all flashy banners and pop-ups.
Right.
It just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
Look for developers whose past work resonates with the feeling you want your site to evoke, right? It's like you wouldn't walk into a Chanel store and expect to find bohemian macrame wall hangings, would you?
Definitely not.
Ooh.
It's about finding a developer who gets you.
Right.
Which leads us to the next big tip: communication.
Okay.
The podcast host was adamant about this. Before you even think about placing an order, message them.
It's like you wouldn't want to marry someone without, like, talking to them first.
I like that analogy.
Right.
And just like dating, those early interactions are telling.
Right.
Do they ask insightful questions about your vision, or do they just fire back generic responses?
Right. You want someone who's, like, genuinely interested in your project, not just trying to rush you through the process.
Exactly. This is where a lot of people, especially if they're new to freelancing platforms, might make the mistake.
Not just an expense.
Right. You get what you pay for. It reminds me of that saying, the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten.
I love that.
Yeah.
And in the case of a poorly built website, that bitterness can linger for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
You might end up spending more to fix those problems than you would have if you'd invested in a more experienced developer from the get-go.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that balance between quality and cost.
Yeah.
Which is where the podcast's next tip comes in handy.
Okay.
Using Fiverr's filtering system strategically.
Yes, it's about working smarter, not harder.
Right.
Don't just scroll endlessly through thousands of profiles. Utilize those filters to narrow down your options.
It's like having a personal assistant for finding developers. You can set your budget, your desired delivery time, even the specific type of website you need.
Right.
Need an e-commerce site with a blog and a custom booking system? Fiverr's got a filter for that.
And that brings me to something that wasn't explicitly covered in the podcast, but it's crucial, especially for someone like you who's already thinking strategically about this.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the importance of clearly outlining your project scope before you even start browsing.
Okay, so it's not enough to just say, like, hey, build me a website.
Definitely not. The more specific you are upfront, the better.
Okay.
List out the pages you need, the features you want, any design preferences. It's like providing a blueprint for your developer.
It prevents those dreaded, but I thought you meant conversations later on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it helps you attract the right developers, those who are genuinely a good fit for your specific needs and style. Speaking of which, another thing to consider is a developer's approach to revisions.
Oh, good point. Building a website isn't like ordering a pizza. You're probably going to want to make some tweaks along the way.
Exactly. It's an iterative process.
Yeah.
So before you commit, find out how many rounds of revisions are included in their package and ask about their feedback process. Do they use a project management tool where you can leave comments? Are they open to suggestions, or do they get defensive if you want to change something?
Those are great questions to ask. Remember, you're not just hiring their technical skill.
Right.
You're hiring their communication style and their ability to collaborate.
Yes. And while we're on the topic of protecting yourself.
This is where that whole, like, hiring a freelancer thing can feel a little scary.
Yeah.
What if things go wrong?
Right.
It's not like there's a manager you can complain to.
That's why even on a platform like Fiverr that has like built-in safeguards, having a solid contract can be a lifesaver.
I admit I don't always think about contracts for smaller projects,
Yeah.
but you're right. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Outline the scope, the timelines, payment milestones, those revision details we talked about.
Yeah.
It protects both of you. There are even templates online you can adapt to make it super easy.
So much good stuff to think about. We've gone from feeling overwhelmed to, dare I say, excited, at least prepared.
And that's the goal. Building a website should be exciting. It's the foundation of your online presence. And with the right developer by your side, it can be an incredibly rewarding process.
You've given our listeners so much to consider. Any parting words of wisdom as they embark on their Fiverr developer quest?
You've done your research, you've listened to this podcast, you've got great instincts.
Right.
Now trust your gut. When you find a developer whose portfolio excites you, who gets your vision, who communicates clearly, that's a good sign.
It's like that final click feeling, right?
Exactly.
You just know.
Because at the end of the day, it's a partnership. Find someone who not only has the skills, but also the enthusiasm to bring your online vision to life.
I love that. Find your website soulmate.
Yeah.
This has been such a helpful deep dive. We've covered everything from deciphering reviews to the importance of communication and contracts.
Absolutely.
Really good stuff.
Remember, building a website, it's a journey,
Yeah,
not a sprint.
right.
Enjoy the process and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way.
You've got this. And on that note, we'll let you get back to your Fiverr browsing happy website building.